Following the attacks in Paris, there's a debate as to what the media should show and not show. Many organizations are not showing, for example, the new cover of Charlie Hebdo, which once again depicts the Prophet Muhammad. But it goes beyond just this cover. An education publisher has decided not to show pictures of bacon and pigs, concerned that would offend students. And HarperCollins erased Israel from maps of textbooks in some Middle Eastern countries. Does self-censorship pose the biggest risk to free speech? Here to talk more on this issue is Jane Velez-Mitchell, television journalist and author, as well as host of JaneUnchained.com. Jane, it's a pleasure and honor to have you here on Arise Xchange. Thank you. First, your thoughts on whether the media is making a right decision. We here at Arise, for example, are not showing the cover of the magazine. And out of sensitivity to the viewers, because there are those who consider showing images of the Prophet Muhammad obviously sacrilegious. What are your thoughts about the media self-censoring on this particular issue first?
Well, when I saw that cover that has now sold millions and millions of copies.
Yeah, about 5 million, I think.
It's unbelievable. I was like, yeah, freedom of speech, right on. And then I started thinking about it and I thought, wow. You know, they've been firebombed in 2011. Then you have this latest atrocity where so many people died. What's the blowback going to be from putting out that photo? And is some little child walking down the street going to suffer the consequence? And is it really their decision to say, okay, we're going to put untold, unnamed, innocent people at risk? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Already militants have said this is an extremely stupid decision. So what's the blowback going to be? And really, is that the goal, to escalate this cultural war? Or should we take a more solutionary approach and say, what can we do to find commonalities?
Okay, well, journalists make editorial decisions all the time.
Yes.
But should the editorial decisions be decided on whether you're putting people necessarily at risk, with the exception of imminent harm? You know, we all as journalists aren't going to report on state secrets. Is this imminent harm?
This could be imminent harm. You know, these brothers, we're hearing one was very, very prone to violence from his former mentor. So you have a lot of lost, troubled young men out there. At the end of the day, sometimes it's not so much about politics. It's lost people who are seeking a way to get attention. And so you don't know whether somebody tomorrow
Jane,
might respond to that.
Let me divide it, though, up between the newspaper deciding to put, the satirical newspaper deciding to put this cartoon on the cover again, and the reporting of it. Right. Because that's two separate issues, isn't it? Because
how
can you report on it without showing it?
Yeah, you can report on it. I'm going to propose something really extraordinary right here that I've been watching endless hours of coverage and I haven't heard anybody mention. Maybe I missed it, but why not respond to this terrorist act by not giving these terrorists what they want? They want attention. I've heard so many people say they've won because they've gotten the attention. Why don't we do something extraordinary and not show the images of them executing a police officer and getting in their car so nonchalantly and driving
there's
away?
An argument, and you were part of the sort of the cable news. We're all in this business, the cable news cycle, where we're always talking about this ad nauseum, making it possibly worse than it would have been decades and decades ago, when that's all you're covering on the news. How do you censor yourself appropriately then not to cover this? Because you're right. If we didn't cover terrorist actions, if there was a law that said you cannot cover terrorist actions, there wouldn't be terrorist actions. But that's not the society we live in.
Censorship all the time. There was a decision made, and I think it was a wise one after 9/11, to stop showing those planes going into the World Trade Center over and over again. So I think that it's certainly within the realm of possibility to say we're not going to glorify this inadvertently by showing it over and over again.
Okay, so let's take that, though. But now the other issues that are coming out when we're having this cultural sensitivity. First, who decides what's cultural sensitivity? I've heard some say, let's erase the word offensive from the language because who knows what's offensive or not. You know, how about those kind of decisions where you're really deciding based on your marketplace?
Well, look, one person's idiotic political correctness is another person's very important sensitivity. You had mentioned something about pork. You know, I don't even believe in the word pork. Here's an odd thing. I happen to be a vegan. I believe that pork desensitizes people to the fact that they're killing pigs. Get rid of the word pork. Now, you might say that's an idiotic political correctness. For me, it's something valid. That's why we need people of all genders, all races, all creeds, all racial and ethnic backgrounds and perspectives in a newsroom, in a publishing house, so that we can all come together and make those decisions.
But how do you cover all of the offensive decisions or the culturally insensitive decisions, and then what do you cover?
You sit around a table and you argue about it the way we're arguing now. And what you might think is idiotic, it's very important to me because of my background, my life experience. And that's why it's important. I mean, we could have done something extraordinary in the wake of this catastrophe. Think about it in the wake of 9/11, when we had the world at our hands, when everybody was sympathetic to us. And so then we ended up waging what I believe was an unnecessary war.
Yeah, we lost the sympathy.
We lost the moral high ground. And when we look at these kinds of terrorist acts, we can't look at them in a vacuum. We have to look at them as part of a bigger stew. So it's very easy for us to take a look at one side and say, pure victim, other side, pure villain. But at the end of the day, even if one side is half of 1% responsible, it's better to look at it as a participant as opposed to pure victimization.
Jane Velez-Mitchell, the website is janeunchained.com. Thanks for having you.
It was so great talking to you.
Thank you.